Step 6. Building the operational mount. To start making this top piece, which becomes the supports for the 4-bar linkage and ultimately the grabber arm, we're going to need the following parts. Starting with this main body here, we need to do a bit of scoring to get the best chance of getting these holes lined up with these holes. So if we grab our ruler, we're just going to score down here. Do that on both sides. When we start to fold this piece over onto here, we can make sure that we line up these holes. So if we start to do that, over, be careful about it, and we're looking to line up those holes. So squidge, squidge, squidge. There we go, that looks pretty good. So we're going to open that back up, put some glue in here, and as we bring it over, it's really important to make sure these holes line up. If the other bits don't line up so much, that's not so much of a worry. Squeeze that together all the way along. Nice. Do the same on the other side. Got these back bits here. We could just fold those up. So if I put my finger here, lift at the back, it should just bend easily on that part. Same on this side. Finger down there, finger at the back, lift up, should fold over. Now these should fold really nicely over to there, and again we need to make sure that this is going to line up, so you might need to rotate it a little bit. That should fit there really nicely. I'm going to glue that too much, and just again line up those holes when you squash it. If we've got any glue in the hole, quickly pop a stick through, all the way through, and that clears that up. Do the same as this on the other side. Lift from the back edge, start to bring that up. This tab here is going to drop into that recess. Just make sure he does that as he comes up. There we go. Do the same thing on the other side. Next, we want to get the base attached. That's this piece here. And we need to make sure we get this the right way around. The clue is this little cutout. That ends up lining up. Can you see at the back here? Move it around. That's going to line up there. And obviously the hole in the middle is going to line up. If it's helpful again, put a stick through to guide things so that when you start to glue it together, you can ensure that that's absolutely in the middle. And then all you need to do is make it radially correct. It's only this base part here that is going to be attached to this. So it also doesn't extend any further down here. So we're only going to put glue on this piece, like this, as far as there. Now push our stick back through a little bit, pop that on, and then rotate it around until that all lines up. Hold that down nicely everywhere. And now when we lift our sides up, we've got a nice circular base. To support things, stop things flapping about, we're going to take these parts and put them on the sides here. They slot in just like that. Right, we're going to glue those in place. So if it's helpful, put a little pencil mark, but otherwise we're just going to glue straight down there and across the bottom, and then put that. Slot that in. Just make sure we haven't stuck it to the table. You can now seam that on with some glue. And then repeat this on the other side. Okay, take this part here. We should be able to just use our fingernail and our hand, or if necessary put it flat and use the ruler to help you, but these should just bend really nicely. There we go. And this is the support piece for the rod that's come up from the base all the way up through the product. We're going to use any one of the sticks that we've still got lying around, one of the dowels. We put that through. We're going to use this to locate it. So now ideally we don't want to get glue in the middle here yet, because we're not gluing it onto this stick, we're going to glue it onto a different stick. But if we just pop a little bit of glue around that, just a tiny bit on either side, we can slide this on and just rotate him around just a little bit, but keeping sure that we can still lift this up when we're ready to, and also keeping sure that we can take the stick out still, which we can. Next thing to do is to attach this front piece. Now this comes with some slits pre-made in it, so the whole thing should become quite bendy quite quickly. You can start to see, if I just manipulate it by pushing with my thumbs, supporting with my fingers, I'm able to curve that quite nicely. Now I need to be a bit more vicious at this point. This needs to go all the way over. See what I've done there? I've put my fingers in here, push at the back. Do the same on this one, fingers in there, push at the back. We should be making something that sort of shape. Now this has got a small tab and a big tab. It's the small tab that's going to want to go into that little hole in the corner there. So what we're probably going to want to do is just manipulate these little tabs here to make it a bit easier to get in. So let's put this the right way up. To get those to go in, we want to just turn this over and just squidge this edge on the inside. Just makes it a little bit thinner for when it goes in. Okay, and we'll do a little trial fit. So we're going to offer that curvature up to here, rotate that in, and you should hear it almost crack into position. Just like that. There we go. Now, to make sure this is nicely attached, I'm going to put some glue onto this inside edge on both sides. So holding this little tab out of the way, put some glue across here and across here, making sure this is the right way up, the little tabs at the bottom. Rotate that in. And just have a look inside to make sure that's sitting flat. You want to make sure it's sitting flat down there, which this is, so that is in the right place. We can now put a bead of glue around the inside of there just to make sure that's well held on. Okay, so we have these numbers printed all the way around here, and these are to show the angle at which this is going to sit. Now, there's a good reason why we set this to be perpendicular again to that face, because we're going to be gluing this part onto this here, and because this rotates, we need to make sure we glue it at the right point. So we're setting that arm to be perpendicular. Don't push down too hard, and possibly support it from the underside while you insert it on. Slide it all the way down. These bits here are sticking up a little bit, and we're just going to squidge them down with our ruler, because when this comes swinging round, we want to make sure that doesn't whack, that it's hitting at the minute. So it's going to just push that down. Now look, that can move. Okay, this arm is set to perpendicular to that face. This is going to be set to 0 degrees. Now we start the glue process to attach all of this onto here. Just lift it ever so slightly, so we can rotate that round. Remember to support from underneath so you don't crush anything. Checking this is still at 0 degrees. We'll now start the process of gluing it onto this shaft, and it's really important this is well attached. So if there was ever a time to use a ridiculous amount of glue, this would be it. So we're going to take our glue gun, insert it in from the back here, and we're going to try and get as much glue around the back of that shaft as possible. So do it from one side and then the other. Now, we've got these two arms which we can bring around. And using some implements like some more of the dowels, you're going to want to hold those two bits together whilst that dries. Remember to reset your angle to 0 if necessary. It's a bit like chopsticks. There we go, right, reset that to 0. Make sure this is pushed down as well. If that starts to lift up, we want to make sure it's down. This might take some time to dry, but it's very important that this is well attached, because when you rotate it at the bottom, you want to make sure it rotates at the top. If you're feeling really clever, you can use some of your rubber bands to actually put around like chopsticks. If you wrap that around a couple of times, a bit like chopsticks, you can actually lift that open. You can use some of your rubber bands. If you wrap that around a bit like chopsticks, you can actually lift that open, hold it together for you. Now you can go off and have a cup of tea or a drink, and we'll come back when that's dry. Now it's time to fit this part. We need to make sure we just break out these corners. So now we get this part, we're going to bend this bit down and bend this bit up. So it looks like that. Before we attach this part, it's a good idea to give this one last blast with the glue just inside the top of this flap. Okay, and then we can then push that down so that's nice and flush. So this part goes on in this orientation. Insert the top of these through these slots. On both sides. Now be careful when you're pushing this down because it's a little bit delicate here, so I would try and give it as much support as possible. You can do that by putting your hand either side of it and really supporting it as you move it down. Just do it gradually, you don't got to rush. Okay, before we put it all the way down, we want to put some glue on top of here, and ideally on top of here, here, and that will do. So let's do that. You need to be mindful that you need to be sliding it forwards to get it to line up with the rod. There we go. You can see that's just lined up now. keep poking down. If necessary, use your ruler at the back just to squidge it into position, so you can support that all the way across. And at the front, just want to shift these little bits into that recess if necessary. There we go. That should be sitting down nicely now. This is protruding through. We don't need to put any more glue on here, but we are just going to glue this little tab down. So if we put it down and see where it goes to, make a mental note of that. Put some glue further back than that, so that when this goes down, it touches it and then squishes it forwards. So we'll do that. Squish that down, move that forwards, and then hold that in place. Now that is locked very firmly on there.